afternoon to you. I wanted to record a brief video to review what's going to be due for the next few weeks for this class, actually till closer to the end of February. So let me go through this. For this week, you have to do discussion board 1 and discussion board 1A. For discussion board 1, it's a series of about 5 sentences that you need to revise and get each cluster of sentences into one sentence of 20 words or less. So that'll be due for Friday, this Friday, the 25th, January 25th. And then discussion board 1A, you actually have to do the first posting by Wednesday, January 23rd. And then you need to use 2 paragraphs or so. And then by Friday the 25th, you need to respond in a paragraph to what another student said. So those will be due. And to get to those, you go to Blackboard and you go to Tools and Discussion Board. And the first time that you actually do one, you click on Create New Thread. And that's how it will work. And then you click Submit. A good idea actually with the discussion board is to type it in Word and correct it and then copy and paste it right into the discussion board. Not as an attachment, but you can put it right into the discussion board. So, I just did definitely want to mention that. So that's what's due for this week. Okay, for next week, which is Friday, February the 1st, you have to do an evaluation of customer service. And that is actually described in assignments. And what you have to do is, as an employee, look at customer service in your organization and rate it on 3 or 4 points of criteria. So as far as dealing with employee conflict, resolving customer problems, things like that. But you have to evaluate the customer service at a particular organization or company where you work. Last semester, I had a student in class that worked as an inspection mechanic at a place in Greensburg called Sarah Auto, and they're a Toyota and Lexus specialist. And he said because they specialize in those cars and they deal with them all day, every day, he said they're very, very good at it. And one really good example this student gave that I really like is if you have a bad muffler, and what the dealership will do is they will just cut the muffler off from the manifold and go the whole ways back to the muffler tailpipe and everything. He said what they will do at Sarah is if there's only a section of the tailpipe that is bad or of the muffler system, what they'll do is they'll just replace that section and it saves the customer a good deal of money. And that's a good example of treating the customer fairly. So I like those examples. But anyhow, you're going to have to evaluate customer service. And like I said, that is going to be due for Friday, February the 1st. And then also, as we go into the next week, there is a discussion board posting that will be due at discussion board 2. And you have to actually do one posting by Wednesday, February the 6th. And then you have to respond to another student by Friday, February the 8th. So that is coming due. And then the other thing that is due, I just have to check my notes to make sure I am accurate. Yes, there is an assignment, and it's actually in assignments, and it's evaluating 2 websites. One is the United States United States newspaper website, and another is a website for a newspaper in another country. So, for example, you can look at a website for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Greensburg Tribune Review, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, and then you can look at a newspaper in another country like Al Jazeera, which is the newspaper of the Middle East. You can look at one from China, Japan, India. There's some huge newspaper websites around the world. So you just have that is actually described in assignments, and so that will be due for that week. You can actually do it as a Word document and send it to me as an attachment. So that one isn't hard to do. It's actually kind of neat to compare websites in this country compared to websites, in another country, and see. You have to look at the layout, the design, and things like that. It's described in assignments. Now, for the 15th of February, what you're going to have to do is evaluate good and bad written instructions. So, for example, putting together a gas grill, or assembling a child's toy. If you bought furniture from IKEA, or any of these other places, and you'd had to assemble it. Were the instructions effective or ineffective? And again, that also is in assignments. And then for the next week, which is Friday, February 22nd, you have to do a proposal related to your consumer report. Now, for your consumer report for this class, you have to choose 3 brands of a product and look at them with at least 4 points of criteria. So, like if you were looking at 3 mid-sized cars, you look at like a Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, a Mazda 6, and you can compare them using 4 points of criteria. Now, if you're going to use price, that would make it 5 points of criteria. But there's a lot of good examples there in assignments. But for now, I just want you to do a proposal on your consumer report. And I'll talk more about that as we go along. So that's a discussion board posting. The last item to do, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and I'm going to give about a minute and a half to this. You have to do an assignment where you have to find an article, 3 to 5 pages. It can be longer than that. Certainly, you can use EBSCOhost, you can use LexisNexis, you can use Google. If you have access to another library or website, that's fine. But find an article, 3 to 5 pages. It can be longer than that. It has to be what we would call a journal or a trade publication. And in the guidelines and assignments, that's pretty much described. Our WCCC library guide describes what types of periodicals those are. And then you have to do a summary of about 1,000 words, a longer summary. And then you would do a summary of about a third of the length of the original, so that would be about 300 words. So you do a shorter summary. And then the last thing that you do is you present the information in sort of like a brainstorming format, where you put the main idea in the middle, and then you have 4 or 5 sub-ideas that you break down, and you break those down into 4 to 5 other sub-points. So it's just presenting the same information in 3 different ways. And but for right now, the main thing that I really wanted to focus on is, like I said, it's discussion board 1 and 1A are going to be due for this Friday. You have to get them both done by this Friday, the 25th. And then for Friday, February the 1st, you have to do